Minister of Health, Sheikh Dr. Basil Sabah, on Wednesday announced the recovery of 4 additional people from the novel coronavirus, raising the country's total recoveries to 43. The freshly treated cases are 2 Kuwaiti citizens and 2 residents, the minister said, noting that lab tests and analysis had shown the recovery of the 4 new patients. Meanwhile, the Kuwaiti Ministry of Health on Wednesday confirmed 4 additional infections with novel coronavirus in the last 24 hours. The recent cases are of a Kuwaiti woman who has recently returned from the United Kingdom, a Kuwaiti man who has recently returned from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in addition to 2 expats from the Philippines and Somalia. A spokesman for the Sudanese army said early Wednesday Sudan's Minister of Defense, Lieutenant General Jamaluddin Omar, has died of heart attack in South Sudan, where he was taking part in peace negotiations between the government and the movements in Juba. Lieutenant General Omar was a member of the military council that took power after toppling Omar al-Bashir last year and replaced with the Sovereign Council, which runs the country under a 39-month power-sharing deal with the civilian government. The military official is said to have worked closely with the Sudan Revolutionary Front Rebel Alliance to lay down its weapons. The peace process is expected to be concluded by April the 9th. Gunmen stormed the religious gathering of Afghanistan's minority Sikhs in their place of worship in the heart of Kabul's old city Wednesday, killing at least 4 people. Within hours, the IS claimed responsibility for the attack. The emergency services and the hospital said those killed included a child whose body was brought to a Kabul hospital. At least 7 people were wounded. Afghanistan's Interior Ministry said police responded to the attack on the Sikhs' place of worship, with shooting was still underway. There were about 150 worshippers gathering at the time of the attack. Communist guerrillas in the Philippines said on Wednesday they would observe a ceasefire in compliance with the UN chief's call for a global halt in armed clashes during the coronavirus pandemic. The Communist Party of the Philippines said in a statement, New People's Army guerrillas have been ordered to stop assaults and shift to a defensive position from tomorrow to April 15th. The rebels said the ceasefire is a direct response to the call of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres for a global ceasefire between warring parties for the common purpose of fighting the coronavirus pandemic. Iran's president warned that his government was poised to introduce tough new measures against the coronavirus Wednesday as the death toll from one of the world's deadliest outbreaks neared 2,000. President Hassan Rouhani said that the new measure, which could be adopted as soon as Wednesday evening, included Iran's first restrictions on movement to try to stem the spread of the virus. So far, Iran has resisted imposing any lockdown, choosing instead to rely on verbal appeals for people to stay home, but those have been widely ignored. Hundreds of thousands of Iranians took to the roads as usual last weekend to spend the 2-week Persian New Year holiday with family, despite fears of the disease spreading from the big cities to the countryside. The coronavirus has killed another 240 people in France, the top French health official said on Wednesday, bringing the death toll in the country from the pandemic to 1,100. Jerome Solomon told reporters that 22,300 people had tested positive for the virus in France, with a total of 10,176 hospitalized, of whom 2,560 people are in intensive care. Officials believe that the published number of those infected largely underestimates the real figures, as only those showing severe symptoms are usually tested. Solomon also emphasized that the death toll of 1,100 includes only those recorded to have died of the coronavirus in hospitals and not those who pass away in old people's homes. Australia said on Wednesday it would force passengers on a ship into quarantine on a tourist island and refuse entry to another vessel as authorities slapped heavy curbs on people movement to stop the rapid spread of the coronavirus. The West Australian state government said the MV Artania was scheduled to dock in Perth and called ahead of medical assistance after 25 of its 800 passengers reported respiratory problems. The authorities refused to let it dock and sent local health professionals onto the ship, which had no Australians aboard, for checks. Another cruise ship, the Vasco da Gama, was due in Perth on Friday with 800 Australians and 109 New Zealanders on board. Foreigners would be flown home, while Australians would be led back into the country after 14 days of quarantine. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern on Wednesday declared a state of national emergency as the country prepared to go into a complete lockdown at midnight to combat the coronavirus outbreak. New Zealand's cases of the coronavirus surged to 205 cases as the government imposed self-isolation for everyone, with all non-essential services, schools and offices to be shut for a month. The Premier told Parliament the lockdown was triggered by early evidence of community transmission of the virus. A record 50 new cases were confirmed on Wednesday. New Zealand, with about 5 million people, has fewer infections than any other countries, but the government wants to move fast to halt the spread. Pakistan on Wednesday halted all domestic passenger flights to stop the spread of the new coronavirus after reporting nearly 1,000 cases in the country. Civil aviation spokesman Abdulsattar Kokar said the domestic flight ban will begin on Thursday. Islamabad previously cut train service and international flights. Initially, most of those infected were Pakistani pilgrims returning from neighboring hard-hit Islamic Republic of Iran, which has seen the Middle East's worst outbreak of the virus. Now, however, officials said the virus is being reported in people who had no travel history. India's billion-plus population went into a 3-week lockdown Wednesday, with a third of the world now under orders to stay indoors as the coronavirus pandemic forced Japan to postpone the Olympics until next year. Financial markets soared after a catastrophic month as the U.S. Congress looked set to pass a mammoth stimulus bill, joining the world's central banks in combating the crisis with major cash injections. The White House voiced hope that the United States would be ready to go by mid-April, but despite the optimism, more governments are taking unprecedented action to stop potential virus carriers going out and about. Mainland China reported a drop in new confirmed coronavirus cases on Wednesday as imported infections fell and no locally transmitted infections were reported, including in central Hubei province, the epicenter of the outbreak in China. The National Health Commission said the number of new cases totaled 47 on Tuesday, all of which were from travelers returning home, down from 78 a day earlier. New imported cases in Beijing, Guangdong and Fujian declined, though the daily tally of new imported infections rose to a record 19 cases in the financial hub of Shanghai. The White House and Senate leaders of both parties announced agreement early Wednesday on unprecedented emergency legislation to rush sweeping aid to businesses, workers, and a health care system slammed by the coronavirus pandemic. The urgently needed pandemic response measure is the largest economic rescue measure in history and is intended as a weeks or months-long patch for an economy spiraling into recession and a nation facing a potentially ghastly toll. Top White House aide Eric Uland announced the agreement in a Capitol hallway shortly after midnight, capping days of often intense haggling and mounting pressure. It still needs to be finalized in detailed legislative language.